everyone, this is Nidhi from Designhill and your host for the day. I hope you and your family are keeping well and safe. I would like to welcome you all for this wonderful workshop with Grace, where we're going to discuss all about designing your personal brand and how networking plays a great role, to get work opportunities as a designer. Today's event is brought to you by Designhill, world's leading creative marketplace that caters to the creative needs of businesses and individuals alike who can source high quality designs from professional designers. Through it through its print on demand marketplace called Print Shop by Designhill, you can also buy 50 plus unique products with thousands of artworks created by a world class community of independent artists. So let me introduce the speaker for today. We have with us Grace Ling. Grace is a UX designer at Electronic Arts and the founder of Design Lead of the Design Buddies community. She is also a computer science and engineering student at Santa Clara University. Outside of design and community building, she has her own art business and creates content for social media and her blog. She also enjoys drawing, running, and traveling. Thank you so much, Grace, for taking out time from your schedule and joining us for today's webinar. Please say a quick hi to the audiences.
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much for having me on. I'm excited.
All right. Great. So Grace is going to share a brief presentation with us all and talk at length about how personal branding and networking are two important aspects for any designer to create visibility for themselves and also get work opportunities. But before we start the session, guys, there are a couple of announcements that we want to make. We are giving away certificates to the attendees who would stick till the end of the workshop. You just can't miss on this chance, so stay tuned till the end. Also, you can take the screenshot of this event and post it on your Insta story and tag Design Hills and Grace's handle, which is candyleaf underscore. One lucky winner will have a chance to win a print shop gift card worth $50. Along with that, it's a gesture of appreciation that you could join us for the event. We will be having some special offers for you in the chat section. So just keep your eye, in the chat section. Someone from the team will share the details with you. All right, before we start the session, let's quickly look at what this Print Shop by Designhill is all about. All right, Grace, over to you. You can start sharing your screen and present yourself.
Awesome. Sounds great. Let me share my screen for my slides.
Yes.
Cool. Can you all see my screen?
Yes, we can. We can. Looks great.
Awesome. Cool. We'll get started. And so for this presentation, I'll be going over how I design a personal brand and how I kind of thought of what content I want to create on social media and how I utilize networking to land job opportunities. And later, I'll also talk about how I converted from intern to full-time at Electronic Arts, and we'll end with a question and answer session. So to get started, I also created on my slides in Figma, one of my favorite design tools. And so for this session, I'll start with a little intro about myself, my background, and kind of the lessons I've learned along the way with my career journey. And then I'll talk about personal branding, kind of like the non-visual elements. And then I'll talk about how to design your own visual identity for your personal brand to showcase your personality. And then talk about networking, how you can utilize that to get to know others and ultimately land job opportunities. And then talk about my intern to full-time experience and what I learned along the way to convert that position. And later I'll end with a Q&A. You can ask me anything you want. And so I'm a designer at EA. I started full-time actually last Monday. I was previously interning there since June of this year. I founded Design Buddies, and I also lead marketing design, and you can join with the Discord link below on my slides. I'm also a computer science and engineering grad student at Santa Clara University. I'm now working full-time and a part-time student. And I was born and raised in California, specifically the San Francisco Bay Area. And for fun, I run my own art business. I table at anime conventions and draw a lot. And I create a lot of content for my social media and blog to help designers, community builders, and students. And so a little bit of my background is I actually have a very interesting mixed journey. I started off as an anime artist, and then started off as an aspiring anime artist when I was growing up. I wanted to do anime art and game design. And then I also ran a social media and blog at the same time about running and lifestyle. And then I actually came into college as a bioengineering and pre-med student because I wanted to learn how to optimize myself to run faster and be a neurosurgeon. And then around the same time, I started my art business after college, after graduating from undergrad, which was last year. And then I also started doing game design, computer science, and then later UI, UX, and product design, kind of narrowing down that path. And I also started design buddies along the way. And so I've probably been through about 4 different career path changes, but it taught me a lot about personal branding, how I want to present myself, and how I wanted to tell my story when I network with people and develop my personal brand further. And so now I'll talk about the visual elements. For designers, you can kind of consider, you can take these non-visual elements to help you guide your visual identity design of your own personal brand. So essentially, personal branding is how do you want people to feel when you show up? Like whether it's like empowered, whether it's motivated, whether it's confused or empowered. Yeah, just think about that and think about how you want to design your personal brand to instill that feeling in others. And personal branding is also, what do people say when you leave the room? So what are like the impressions you leave off someone? And make sure they're good and things like that. And so your brand is essentially, it's a really iterative process. You always kind of take in feedback, try different things to express yourself and keep changing along the way. It's never a static thing. You can always keep changing it. It's definitely creative as well, because it's a reflection of your personality and how you want to present yourself, and you're always changing, and don't be afraid of changing yourself. And so personal branding is super important to consider because I put stand on cool competition because I know a lot of you are probably here for job opportunities based on the title of this event. So I definitely feel that based on what I've seen on LinkedIn, because of the COVID pandemic, a lot of people are out of work right now. So 2021, the job market, there's a lot of people out there. And personal branding is one thing you can use to stand out amongst yourself and help you make a lasting impression among recruiters and hiring managers. It also helps you build your network because you're expressing yourself online, you're finding people who share a lot of common traits with you. And it also helps you become more featured in media because people remember you more. And for freelancers, you attract your ideal audience and the right client to give you the right projects and stuff as a freelancer. And also, you can build trust and authority and essentially have more premium pricing. Just think of like generic brand versus brand name things in store. The brand name things are always sold for twice the price. So you can use branding of yourself as a freelancer to attract more premium pricing for that. And also kind of like the steps you want to take is you really want to kind of dig a deep dive in reflecting what your core values, vision, personality are. And just like think about your goal. Like, do you want to land a job, gain clients? Do you just want to be an influencer and share knowledge? So there's a lot of ways you can do this. And I definitely think personal branding is important for multiple goals in life. And also definitely have a target audience. Like, you don't want to try to satisfy everybody because everybody's super different. And if you try to design, it's kind of like design. If you try to satisfy everybody, you will satisfy no one because everyone has so many differences that sometimes they cancel each other out. And so essentially your brand is an extension of your personality. So you really want to dig a deep dive and kind of define what your personality is and think about how you want to express that online with your interactions with people and during interviews and every aspect of your life. And so nowadays, it's super important to be present online, especially with this new trend of everything being digital. And it's also really important as a designer, as any creative, to have both the website and social media. It's important this is a way to stand out. So sharing content, what you learned, giving value to people, but also not only that, engaging with others and just being active and responsive, trying to respond to all your messages, all your comments, and just being part of the community instead of just one directional approach. And also upholding consistent brand, voice, image, and tone. So making sure all your content shared is consistent, so it'll align to your branding. And also when clients or hiring managers are looking at your presence, first impressions are really critical. And your personal brand could be a great way to kind of blow people out of the water and make them remember you based on your first impression. And also you can share content. So after you have your website and blog established, you want to think about what content you want to post. And these can be a form of social media posts, blogs, videos, etc. The most important part is to really tell a story. And this can be in like form of written content, video, images. And this part is to make a personal connection, to showcase who you are and make a human connection. And also important to keep up the quality and consistency. Sometimes people use a logo, sometimes people use a catchphrase for their videos. So just think about how you want to, like these little branding elements that I'll later take a deeper dive into the next session to express yourself. And you definitely want to create a positive impact, just basically help others, give value, and growing a community with your brand by sharing your content and by finding people who really resonate with your content and growing a community among that. And also being aware of trends, like working remotely and things like that, and everything like AR, VR, just things like that you could kind of want to talk about if you want, just so you can get more people resonating with your content. And so as any designer or any creative, like social media is super important. And the most important one I would say is Instagram, because all entrepreneurs in the visual field highly recommend Instagram because you can showcase your work on there. And it's a really visual platform. And it requires like careful visual management to making sure your feed is really consistent, and also make sure you're replying to as many comments as you can in all the platforms. LinkedIn's also great for job seeking. That's how I actually essentially landed my internship at EA initially without applying, was solely through LinkedIn. And you can meet professionals on there or gain people to collaborate with, or even gain clients that way as a freelancer. And Facebook is the largest out of all of it so far. There's largest globally. A lot of people all over the world use that. And you can gain customers really fast on Facebook. And then on Twitter, you can also engage with followers even more on a personal level, like retweet them. You can post more frequently, things like that. You can like tweet things. So these are kind of like the 4 main social medias that I've kind of looked into and recommended based on also my personal experience as a creative to kind of reach more people and develop a personal brand. And also you can think about creating more longer form content. So social media like Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, more for like posts and shorter form content, posts and shorter and like status updates. However, you can share your story more in depth by creating blogs, vlogs, which are video logs like you see on YouTube, or a podcast. And for a blog, you can write about your achievements, your stories, how you got to where you are, and news, like things you've worked on. And then vlog can also talk about your work. So these are just some ideas. You can definitely cross-share these ideas back and forth. In podcasts, you can also talk about your story even more if you don't prefer to be on video, if you don't prefer writing. So you can either write, you can talk on video, or you can use audio. So they're just different forms you can, like ideas you can have to share your story online, depending on which medium you prefer. And both of these are all of these are equally as valuable. And so this is a resource I've kind of attached, and feel free to share the screenshot. I believe these slides are also shared, so welcome to copy and paste this. This is a personal brand development workbook. It's like a 44-page free workbook where it will ask you kind of questions to help you deep dive upon yourself to find out what your core values are and how you want to develop your personal brand. And I am not affiliated by this. I just found this cool resource on the internet that I just want to share with you to help you all out. And so now I'll talk about some of the visual elements you want to consider when thinking about how you want to express yourself and present yourself online. And your personality should really guide your visual style. There's like so many elements you can play around with this, like color, you can still emotions, and which can reflect your personality, your typography. Like I use pop-ins because I really like to be really bubbly, so it's like popping back and forth. So just little things like that. So think about what traits you want to do and think about what visual elements kind of really reflect on those personality traits you have. And so these are just like some collection of brand elements you can consider having. Definitely you don't have to have all of it, but these are just some guidelines to consider, and I'll be going into a deeper dive into all of these soon. And so you want to talk about tone of voice, basically how your brand communicates with the audience. So just think about yourself as kind of like a product, and think about how you want to brand something, but apply it to your own personality as the product, but also having that ever evolving. And all of these can be reflected in your tone of voice. So this is kind of really similar to defining a core value and having that reflect your tone of voice. And it's also really important to like build trust, connection, and memorable image across the audiences. And examples of tone of voice you can do is playful, simple, educational. Like I like to be really playful, so I have all these little chat bubbles and like bunnies popping everywhere. So just think about how you want your tone of voice and reflect that. Like I reflected them in my slides as well.
Grace,
Yeah.
really sorry to interrupt you in between. A lot of people are asking for that free workbook that one of your slides showed. Unfortunately, I cannot copy paste it. If you already have the link, can you please share it with us in the chat section so that everyone can? Yes, the same this one.
Yeah, I can do that. I have to go to my slides to share it, so let me just stop sharing for a bit so you don't have to see like my messy slides or my prototype on Figma. Let me just share that in
All
the
right.
chat really quick. Yeah,
Yes, yes, please share that. It will be very helpful.
yeah, for sure. Let me reshare my screen.
All right, we got it.
Awesome.
This is for you all. Grace has shared the free workbook that she was talking about. Please make sure that you visit and visit and make the most of this free workbook, please. Thank you so much, Grace. You can continue now.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, so how you want to find like your tone of voice. So these are some of the questions this workbook asks, is to really get to know your audience. Like kind of like you're thinking of yourself as designing for a product and doing some user research. Like who is your target audience? Like who are they? How would they describe your brand? What are their impressions of you? And how do they talk to each other? And get to know that. And for me, my target audience are mostly students, designers, and also community builders. And I kind of look at what they post about on LinkedIn. I follow other similar people and think about and like look at their conversations, looking at conversations that happen during comments and things like that. And also identify your core values and create a mission statement. A mission statement is basically who we are, how we can help. So example of mine is I really passionate about community building, and I really want to just create inclusive communities and help people connect with each other. And that's why I have a lot of speech bubbles, because I really like social media and community building conversations. So I include a lot of that in my branding elements too. And also defining your tone of voice, who you are, and what you want to sound like. And so next, you want to think about what colors you want to do. And definitely pick 2 or 3 primary colors that really suit your message. And as you can see, my primary colors are blue, purple, and yellow. And colors is so powerful because it can instill feelings in others. And so definitely think about how I put a like little chart of what different colors mean. So think about your tone of voice and pick from the list and think about what colors you personally like and try to integrate them all together in the system. It's also important to kind of think of a visual style, whether you want to be like minimalist, abstract, vintage, and think about how you want that to reflect your personality. And also pick in fonts is also really important to communicate your own brand and personality as well. Just think about how different fonts tell different messages. And I personally like to pair serif and sans serif fonts. Think about how you want to align with typography for that as well. And also having this reflected all everywhere, like my website, the carousels I make, my resume, and just making sure the colors, fonts, and visual styles I choose are consistent amongst all my platforms is really important to have a consistent tone of voice, consistent brand all across everywhere. And also, it can also include patterns and textures. This one is my own. I really like social media and conversations and community building, so that's why a little mini chat bubble shaped. And this is Design Buddies. It's really playful. It's kind of like a toy box with all these colors. And sometimes I see a lot of people use blobs, so that's why I included some of them here. But just really think about what visual style you want and you can include patterns and stuff to help you recognize more. Definitely not mandatory, but it's also a nice finishing touch. Nice background element to have in everything. And also, when you want to take photos, you have to have think about like on your Instagram, especially having a consistent style. So this is actually, I have like 6 Instagram accounts. So this is all my Instagrams. This is my personal branding, my personal like lifestyle blog one. I run Grace Pics, just me running in nature. And then I also create food art. I used to in college, and I used to do a lot of like art inspired by bento and anime. And then I also have a boba one where I go to a bunch of cafes and take pictures of my stuffed animal, called Rilakkuma. And then I used to also be pre-med, so I had like a study gram one where I take pictures of notes. Just having a consistent style all across the Instagram is really, really important. And I also think about what illustrations I want to include and kind of more personal, more unique styles and more consistent styles across other Instagrams. So Candy Leaf is my art and design one. So I always include a lot of pastel colors, and bunnies and desserts. So incorporating, making them all consistent. And this is Design Buddies. We use the same font, similar colors, bright, and everything as well. So making sure everything is consistent on your Instagram feed, super important. As I mentioned before, Instagram is the most important social media for creatives. So making sure your Instagram feed is really top notch and really consistent all throughout so people can recognize you. Super important. Now talking about networking, getting to know others, and ultimately landing a role. And so definitely, so this is specific for LinkedIn, but this can also apply to any other social media platforms. You definitely want to make sure your profile is complete. This is easy to miss. You want to make sure you double check all the elements, have other people look over your LinkedIn or your Instagram or your Twitter, just making sure you're not missing anything. And LinkedIn is great. This is specifically for getting a job. LinkedIn's the most important. Having an all-star status. So that's how you know your profile is complete. And also the purpose of this is to get noticed by recruiters and hiring managers and also connecting with people. So you have a full profile. So people have a full idea of who you are.
Grace,
Yeah,
1 second, just 1 minute. So we have very nicely covered, the first part of the presentation, which is personal branding, and thank you so much for breaking into such, you have broken all the entire presentation into, like, really insightful pieces, which is very easily they're very easily understandable. But I guess we will take up the networking part in the latter part, the next half of the event. We have a lot of questions that people have asked us. So let's pick a few questions, and then in after the mid roll we will actually get down to the networking part of the entire presentation. All
sure.
right, we have a lot of questions actually in the questions tab, which is really good. So I'm gonna start from right, from the bottom. Anjali is the first one to ask this question, and it has also got five upvotes. So she says, "I like designing in variety of forms. There is not a fixed tone or personality. Is it advantageous to create a consistent tone or feel?" I'm sure that you have already asked, you have already covered and answered this question. But if you would just, answer it once more.
Yeah, definitely really important to create recognizability across your brand. Like it's great to have all these hobbies. And for me, how I like to express these, I actually have an example on my website I can show, is I have like a fun section. And so you don't have to be restricted to, I can show an example actually. This might help be helpful.
Yes, you would love that.
Yeah. So let me share my Chrome tab actually. So this is my website. So for me, I'm mostly UX and product designer, but I also have this part called Playground where I showcase like this is not exactly visual elements, but this is kind of like area of focus where it's similar to that. I have like non-personal branding stuff to it. So you can definitely showcase all these, but also making sure that you highlight the main things. So you're not constrained. Like I also do a lot of other things on top of UX and product design, like art tabling, 3D modeling, which are not directly related to my job. And so you don't have to like limit yourself, but just making sure the thing you're expressing online is your main brand. And then you can also like break down into different areas. So in case recruiters are like looking at it and they're interested in learning more, they'll see it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for doing that, for showing us that bit. We have actually a couple of more questions regarding consistency of branding and in your tone and your messaging. Rafi Tawfani asks, if personal branding is a creative process that is not static, how could we keep being consistent? I mean, considering we are still experimenting and finding our own voice. In the process of it, how do we maintain that consistency?
Yeah, so personal branding is definitely an iterative process. You're not always the same throughout. And so you'll always be changing. Like for me, I've changed a lot throughout the years. And I've also like making sure your social media is updated based on who you are today. And just making sure that you're constantly updating things and changing your bio, making sure you get a new job, making sure that's in as well. And yeah, so that's how you keep consistent with everything. And
Right,
also
Rafi.
keep experimenting with different ways and just finding yourself. It's all about trial and error, and personal branding is never a static process. Don't be afraid to change it doesn't hurt anything, so it's okay to change, but make sure you update across all your social media.
Absolutely. It's an evolution. I mean, you learn as you go, so it's perfectly fine to experiment and eventually, get down to that, that messaging, that tone that suits actually your personality and your product, or your whatever you're trying to communicate on social media. So thank you so much, Grace, for answering that. Rafi, I hope that answers your question as well. If Another question is by Bogdan. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. He says about reflecting your personality through your visual style. What if I get inspired by a ton of things and I love variety? I feel this makes me have a lack of consistency. This is actually one of my questions as well to you.
Yeah, of course. I also love a lot of things. Like I love VR, I love design, I love anime, and I also work in gaming. So it's like a lot of things, but you can definitely focus on your top few. And so it really depends on where your purpose is. If your purpose is to find a job, it's really important to have consistency and making sure your information you show online is really easy to digest and really quickly, because recruiters and hiring managers, they only take a max 30 seconds to look through your portfolio. So just think about that. You want to design for your target audience. However, if sometimes people like me, I also have 6 different Instagram accounts. I have a lot of hobbies, so you can always split things off. You don't have to really stay stacked into, you don't have to stay with just one branding. You can have multiple branding. Like I make food art, so I have another Instagram account for that, because I don't post my food art in like the Design Buddies one or like my personal one and stuff. So yeah, you can still express that. I know we're all creative, so we all have a lot of different interests and hobbies and expressive, but you can split it up. Like a lot of people have like an online presence, like an art, like, so for me, I tape a lot of anime conventions too. So my artist alley style is different from my UX and product design style. So you can definitely separate these elements among yourself. You don't have to have a like one size fits all approach to when you're thinking about how you want to kind of express your personal branding online. But make sure you have a clear separation.
Yes, I think yes, the separation part is very important because I'm also into food, I'm also into writing. So, but how I do it is that currently I'm having this personal account only on Instagram, and I've not split it across. So in future, if I want to have each one of my hobby being pursued in a in a bigger manner, I will have to create different accounts for each of my hobbies, so that each one of that hobbies is getting equal traction and importance. Because I've realized that a food only page or a writing only page gets more traction as compared to one account where everything is happening, right?
Definitely focus on
Right.
niches. Yeah.
Right, that's very, very important. And we have a lot of people who are multi-talented like you, and have a lot of hobbies. You travel, you run, you do food art and designing as well. So yes, great, really great insights, Grace.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll take up last question for this, before we break for the session. Carlos asks how to handle being a professional designer in a company and doing it all for your own business. Okay, I hope you mean to say how do you manage both your job front as well as being an entrepreneur by yourself.
Yeah, of course. So right now I'm a full-time designer at EA. I've also run Design Buddies, which is a 12,500 member community, and I also draw sometimes and have my art business. So what I like to do is whenever people ask me to do stuff, I always like under promise and over deliver. And what that means is whenever someone tells me like to do something and they don't give me a deadline, I always say 2 times the amount of time I think it will take me, and then finish in like half the time. And delight them. And sometimes I do need that extra buffer and stuff because some things do come out. So using that, and also just living a balanced life and scheduling things. Like if something's not on my calendar, it does not exist to me. And I always make people, even like friends, even my parents, like for dentist appointments, like send me a calendar invite, and things like that, to like really making sure that I have everything there. And also setting boundaries, so I don't respond to like Discord messages during work hours, so I can stay focused, and just really communicating with any stakeholders that I'm working right now. I'm not going to respond to any like casual message or any long messages right now, and just really yeah, having that. And also on social media, I get a lot of messages, and personally for me, when someone sends me like a 10-paragraph message, I don't reply right away. I wait till when I'm done with work and I can reply, so I can stay focused during work to get work done. And then after when I'm done, I can reply when I have more time and stuff. And I would show that I'm not online right away, so I don't like have to keep up with everything, so I can do work. So these are just some strategies I do to accomplish everything I can do.
I think it's
And
very, very smart. My takeaway from this answer is that you under promise and you over deliver, and
yeah,
it's very, very smart. These are really good insights, and they're very frank insights as well. I mean, not everyone will tell you these very friendly insights that that they're very privy to you, but you share your knowledge, which is really, really great.
thank you.
So thank you so much, Grace. So with this, we will be breaking for the mid roll. Guys, please stick till the end if you want to earn your certificates. It's very, very important for you. And I would like to give a quick shout out to Design Hill for organizing this event. We will be right back, guys. Just stay tuned.
I've always been creative and always been an artist. As a young girl, I used to paint rocks and I used to sell them for a quarter on the street. And I just fell in love with it. It just grew into a passion of mine. I started looking on the web and I came across Designhill, and they had a design contest to design a logo, and I entered it and I won. And I was like, oh, this is really great. I can pick and choose what type of logos or design projects I want to work on. And it allows me to be creative, keep my hands, with my tools and working. So it's kind of nice. It's really easy to use. You can scroll through the projects and there's sections that you could go by. It's really easy. There's a few clients who have come back to use the one-on-one projects. There's one client in particular, she owns a vintage shop, and I designed her logo, and she came back. She needed a design for a flyer, and she really liked the illustrations that I did for her, so she came back a couple of times with projects. I would recommend it, especially if you're a designer that's starting out and you want to learn from other designers, seasoned designers. It's a place to keep in the game and keep using your tools. It makes me feel great, and it kind of confirms that I should be doing this. And I love to see logos that I've designed out and proud of that. And I think that the clients are so happy that their logo represents what they do and makes them look good. It's a collaboration. It's good for me, and it's definitely good for them.
All right, we are back again, guys. Two, three, announcements again. Please tag Designhill DH and also Candyleaf underscore, which is Grace's Instagram handle. Put an Insta story. If we choose you, you will be given a $50 print shop gift card. So please don't miss out on this chance. Also, please join Grace Discard community. I am a part of it myself, and it's really, really buzzing, full of insights, full of like-minded people. So please go and join it. And with that, Grace, over to you again. We can start with the networking part.
Thank you. Yeah, another thing I would like to do for managing it all is delegation. So I see some of you in here, but thank you for all the admins and all the moderators and design buddies. Asking people for help in delegating things is also super helpful in accomplishing everything. So with that said, I'll talk about networking and how to specifically utilize this to get a job, and how I got into EA without applying, essentially through networking. So as I said before, definitely complete your LinkedIn profile, making sure that your first impressions are critical. And this is really important to get noticed by recruiters and hiring managers. Having that all-star status. You also want to not only have your complete profile, but you want to be part of the community. You can post, like I said before, personal branding, things you want to do. I've seen people have successful posts and posting their stories, lessons learned. This is my favorite thing to post on LinkedIn. Post about your goals and progresses, portfolio works to showcase your work, and take away some interesting books, your articles read, conferences you went to, and also commenting on other people's posts and getting on their radar. Just being part of the community is really important, just standing out. And also reaching out to people. So this is what I did specifically to get into a job and the network. And the goal of this is to really just meet people and get to know about their story, and don't sell yourself. Don't approach people with the sole intention of getting a job. Get to know them. So this is what actually Felix from ADP was said, is if you ask for a job, you get advice. If you ask for advice, you get a job. So think about this when you're reaching out to people, and make it about them and knowing their story and knowing about how they got to where they are today. And when you reach out, making sure you're personalizing your message, especially don't send empty connects on LinkedIn. Always write a message saying about maybe who you are, where you met, some similarities and things like that. So people will remember you. And so for me, I personally sent over 400 connection requests with personalized messages to different design directors and senior managers at companies I was interested in to get to know their story and how they got to their industry. And so I sent this 400 times over the span of 2 months, and I had about 30 coffee chats with professionals. And sometimes not all of them lead to a job. I don't necessarily talk about jobs for all of them, but sometimes I gain lifelong mentors. And as a new grad, it's really important to also have mentors outside the company to give you like another perspective. So I met a lot of mentors through that way, who I also stay in touch with outside of EA as well. I have mentors inside EA, but also outside to help guide me along the way on like tips like negotiation and things like that. And I would just say like a little intro about myself. I'm a grad student studying this, the goal looking to pursue a UX design, and a goal of why you're connecting is like, I would love to learn about how they got into design or how they got to where they are today. And so I have like intro and purpose, and to keep it really short because professionals like super busy. And after that, I would connect with them, and sometimes we'll schedule an informational interview. And for my message, I leave it really open-ended. So sometimes people rather communicate to me via messaging. Some people want to hop on a call with me and things like that. But the general flow I would do was just casual style, coffee chat style. I would basically treat it just like I'm talking to the friend. And the mistake I made before is I was too nervous and like too formal, and I made the other person really nervous, because at the end of the day, we're all human. So it's fun to just like treat them like a friend and be really casual. And I like to find things in common, connect, and ask specific questions. So I would take at least 10 minutes to take a deep dive in the LinkedIn profile and the website to really ask questions like, oh, I see that we are both like cross-country runners. Like what things do you learn as a cross-country athlete to help that you've kind of carried to the career as a design director, things like that. And people love talking about themselves. It's a great way to really connect with someone to make them happy. And also you learn so much, and you learn so much things that are not Googleable through talking to people. So really, really highly recommend doing informational interviews. And this is what led to my job at EA essentially. And also, like, when you think of, like, I know it's, like, really nerve-wracking to think about what you want to talk about and what kind of questions you ask. So these are just some of my favorites that worked really well in the past, kind of like seeing things in common, favorite projects, lessons learned. You can also get to know the company more that way, because when you're interviewing, when you're job hunting, you're not interviewing, they're interviewing you, but you are also interviewing them. So this is a great way to find out about what kind of projects this company works on, their designers work on, how they're involved with product engineers, leadership, and how they fit in to see if it's a good fit for you. Also, like to know about them and what's your inspiration behind this project, so you can gain inspiration for yourself too. And I also like to ask what the career goals, because some of them I met, some design directors, their goals become a VP, and it's a great connection, because sometimes if they are a VP, one day you can reach back out if you need a job or you want to like have them on for a session with design buddies. You can also do that too. So it's great to just know them more as a friend. And don't sell yourself, make it about them. And the mistake I made before is I actually asked a design director, I was like, what kind of traits do you look for in interns? And immediately that was like really weird, and it became really awkward. So don't sell yourself, but make the conversation about them, and because you reached out to them and stuff. So important key to remember based on my personal experience too, and how people talk to me and approach me when they're networking with me too. So both sides. And LinkedIn's not the only place where you can meet people and network. There's a lot of communities. Highly recommend Design Buddies. That's the most active one I'm in. You can also do conferences. There's a lot of design conferences. There's like a list of some. I feel like that's also pinned in Design Buddies. You can also join Facebook groups like Designers Guild, Asian Creative Network, Slack groups as well. There's like this whole database of designers Slack communities. Definitely not as active as Discord, but there's like a lot out there as well. And meetup.com is also another way to find meetup groups who meet up regularly, like in person after COVID ends, or online now. And also, like, definitely don't be afraid to ask for my information. I learned so much by networking. In the next section, I'll talk about like specifically how I network within EA. And most importantly, don't be afraid to ask for it, because the worst thing to say is no. But also making sure you're clear about your intentions. Like, you want to know about them. And don't ask for a job. Like I said before, if you ask for a job, you get advice. If you ask for advice, you get a job. And focus on storytelling. Another mistake I made before is I would introduce myself like, hi, I'm Grace. I'm a designer. I run this like 12,000 member community. And immediately that was weird, because I was basically talking about the metrics, and it felt too much like a job interview, or too much like I'm showing off. It's like less human. So I would focus on like, oh yeah, I'm Grace. I run this like large design community, and we host a lot of fun events and stuff. So I would just try to be more personable and like less focused on the metrics, and be more human, because numbers are not as human. And if I'm more human, I make a more human connection. And after I chat with them, I also remember to make sure to follow up. Just thank them for their time. If you have action items, like they want to introduce you to someone, making sure that, oh yeah, thank you for offering to introduce me to this person. Would love to get connected, and just to remind them and stuff. Or sometimes you have a resource you want to share, making sure you share that in your follow-up message as well, to really keep that connection warm. Because ultimately, networking is like making a new friend, and you want to like stay in touch with your friend. So it's following up that way. And so now talk about like my intern to full-time experience, and how anyone who was an entry-level or contractor an intern can convert to full-time. And so for my UX design, I had 2 internships at EA, both the summer and fall of 2019. I was on the experience design team under the technology or IT org, called Product and Experience Design. And I worked on many projects, mostly one main one. For the summer, I mostly worked on player experience. I worked on EA Help, which is actually on my portfolio, the case study. And I also worked on design systems, building components, spreading development documentation for the fall. And I stayed in the same team. So now I'm a full-time designer working on design systems mostly. And for me, having an engineering background helped a lot, because I can communicate, I can work with developers, and that's why I'm writing developer documentation and bridging the gap between design and development. And so a typical week, like how like my internship and full-time job works at EA with my team is, we'd have a team all hands, we have announcements, kudos, things like that. And we have team critique sessions, which is a separate meeting where anybody can sign up and get their work critiqued. We also have team happy hours or coffee hours. I also have one-on-ones with the manager and mentor to discuss anything, and also collaborate really closely with product managers and engineering teams to align with different projects. And for fun, I would go to like intern events or employee resource group events. And like every few months, every 1 month or 2 months, my team also has a full day long party or half day long party where we can just hang out, play games, watch movies, and things like that for team bonding. And I've learned a lot through my internship. Most importantly, keep asking why, like why I'm doing this, why this is this way, and keep questioning things. Not only you develop critical thinking skills, it helps you develop the correct features. Because I was an intern, I was able to like change the scope of different projects because I kept asking why, and ultimately being able to help out other people too. Even as an intern, I was able to make a bigger impact. And also designing for scalability. Think about how things would look like if there's like 10 games on this, 20 games on this website. And think about different use cases and edge cases when you're designing. And this is like the key thing that really helped me get my return offer is I would ask to help out. And so sometimes like, at least my manager told me I work really fast. So I would always like ask other people on my team whether they need help with anything. And I can also get more experience that way. And my team is really interesting because we're like the only team in the technology branch of electronic arts, only design team. So people often come to us with a lot of like different side projects, like designing postcards, designing event banners. And so I would always volunteer to help out. And that helps me get to know leadership. Like I got to work on the banners and activities for the whole organization, IT, all hands meetings and stuff. So I got on the radar of all the senior VPs and VPs of my org. And they're the ones also making decisions of whether they want to convert me to full-time. So this is how I essentially got their approval. Like I helped out getting their approval. My manager also wrote me a great review, so that also helped as well. So just being really helpful, a team player, but also identify opportunities, especially if it can help out leadership, is a great way to get on the radar because they have to approve you to be full-time. And also documenting everything. I negotiated successfully for my full-time offer, negotiated a lot of things like salary, sign-on bonus, things like that. And how I was able to do that is I documented everything I've learned, everything I accomplished to back it up, and also looking at the ballpark salary of my area and using that as like kind of persuading or using that as justification of facts to use my negotiation, and how I not only was able to get a return offer, but also negotiate a much higher salary and sign-on bonus and more stock options and things like that. And also, when you're kind of working day to day and you're working with your manager, working with anybody, it's important to communicate really well, especially in a remote setting, to not only show that you understand and you want to follow up in your team player. So I like to do this by repeating and confirming instructions. Like after a meeting, I'm always taking notes and confirming with the other person, like, this is what you talked about, this is my action item, this is how I would follow up. It's being really clear, especially now we're remote, we don't have that in-person interaction. So sending like a Slack message or sending like a message to them after your meeting is really important. And also networking within your company. That's essentially how I met a lot of friends from the studio side who work on like The Sims, Skate, and now where I'm helping them, where I'm involving them with design buddies. We're actually hosting a game jam and all that. So not only to get to know other people, and these other designers also mentors to me, they helped me craft up how to negotiate and how I would approach negotiating. And so not only it's good to also use this to identify potential opportunities, but they can also serve as mentors who are not on your direct team, who can give you also advice applicable to the specific company, and have that as well, and have that connection going. And also cross-organization collaboration. Like I've networked a lot on LinkedIn, so I definitely met designers from other organizations. So I actually brought them to my team and collaborated with them, which is also like huge bonus points for me too, for making that connection. So not only does it help me out, it helps my whole team out when I increase my network within the company, and helps my team as a whole, because now my team has more exposure and more reach throughout the whole company as well. So these are just some of these things I've done during my internship in the beginnings of my full-time job that really helped me stand out and helped other people like really recognize my work and stuff. I also post a lot about on LinkedIn about my experiences, and EA actually reshared some of my posts, and that's how I got more visibility within the company too. So really important to be a team player, but also just like be part of the community externally, and just being that bridging, like linking everyone together. And so this is kind of like factors that played a role in my personal branding. In my full-time conversion is like I really expressed well personal branding on LinkedIn, told about what I've learned along the way. And my manager actually initiated this, not me actually. I didn't know they were coming so soon, but I was just like trying my best, doing all the tips I've shared before, and ultimately landing this offer, and then negotiating is what I've learned as well. And so interesting thing is when I started negotiating with my manager, he was like, "Oh, good, you're negotiating, great." Because actually, sometimes negotiation can feel really scary, but some people expect you to negotiate, and because it shows that you're advocating for yourself, and it shows that trait of advocacy. And if you're advocating yourself, the hiring manager think, "Oh, if that person advocating yourself, they could probably advocate for a team too." So it's really great to negotiate. Not only you get more money, you stand out amongst the competition because you show that skill of advocacy, and really knowing your worth and knowing your value, and knowing what you deserve is really, really important. And so those are some salary negotiation tips that personally helped me. I've actually had like 5 chats with mentors and design buddies, and throughout the company as well, and with my manager, and about salary negotiation and how I would go about that. So these resources are actually in Design Buddies too. We have like an FAQ page and FAQ channel, and I personally looked into these specific 2 that helped me the most. So that's why I recommended them out there. And these are like an in-depth guide about how to negotiate. I can also post these links to the chat if you guys want as well. So this is what helped me along the way, on top of thinking of a game plan and running it by other mentors, other senior designers that I've had mentors in, and getting their feedback on that. And so that concludes my presentation. I'll feel free to connect with me on any of my social media platforms. I have a lot, but these are my most active ones. And join Design Buddies, and I'll be taking any questions or more questions now.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Grace. And I absolutely love the presentation. I'm sure everyone loved the presentation too. The clear sign is that we had 119 people, 20 people right at the start, and we have the same number of people right at the end also. So it's a really, really nice sign. We have a lot of questions actually, and we will take them up. We will start, right where we stopped in the first half of the session. Again, there are a lot of consistency related questions, but I'm gonna make it a good mix of all kinds of questions, so that most of the concepts they are covered. There's this question by just Josephine. She asks, when designing the problem for me is matching the colors and fonts. How can I match the color and font with the design I have to make? It's a very simple question, but it's the problem that most designers face. So
Yeah, of course. And so for me, like for example, for me, I like to kind of think about the theme I want to go with all the fonts. And so for me, I like being playful. So that's my oh, let me stop sharing really quick. I realized I was still sharing. Yeah, so for me, I like to think about what central theme, and one of the themes I like to do is playful. So I have a lot of bright colors, but I also like to use the Poppins font. And things like that. So matching, because each color has a different theme and each font also has a different theme. So really going back to the fundamentals of theming and aligning to that is how I would match them together. And definitely, it's not a one-size-fits-all approach. You can definitely experiment. There's no right or wrong way, but just making sure they're aligned to consistent theme is the most important. But there's no right or wrong font or color pairing. It's really how you want to feel, and making sure it's not too like out of the blue or too unusual for people. But really, just like you're all designers, so express yourself and whatever you want to do. And because if you're expressing yourself, then you can present yourself the best.
great. I hope that answers your question, Josephine. We'll quickly move to the next question, which is by Rafiq Tofani again. He asked, the consistent style on Instagram, he finds it boring and that it doesn't match his personality. Is it like bad? Is it like really bad sign?
It depends. Really depends what you're going for. And sometimes if your personal account, like you can have anything you want. But for purposes of attracting clients or getting a job, it's like your resume. Think about that and how you want to express. It's like your resume portfolio. So my answer to that is it depends. If it's just for fun, then you don't have to worry about that. But if it's like for purpose of attracting clients or getting a job, then yes, because Instagram essentially you can think of it like a resume for creatives. And things like that. And you can definitely find your own consistent style within your personality and express that. So it's never trial and error. It's okay if you don't have the answer right away, but just keep experimenting with that. Yeah, but you don't have to. It's like if you want it just for fun, then you can like showcase whatever you want. But for different purposes, you have to consider that.
All right. Okay. So there's this another question by Ken Fitri. He says, hello, Grace. Thank you for sharing. I have seen a lot of creators' work stolen by others. How to prevent our work from being stolen?
Oh man, it's a great question. I actually had this before as well. So it's important to watermark things and also to sign your name. And also, I had to do this before, but I had people claiming my work and printing my work on products, and I would file something called DMCA takedown. I forgot what it stands for, but it's called DMCA. And you can do this directly on Instagram, Twitter. So essentially, if you see, because whatever you post on your social media is automatically you as a you're copyrighted with that. And I will submit DMCA takedowns of people who repost my work without permission, who claim it as their own. And so that's something by law. If you file that legally, they're abided to take it down. Otherwise, it's a little bit punishable by law. So DMCA takedown is you can do in case people steal your work, and also watermarking everything too.
Great, great. Thank you so much, Grace. Another question is by Sheila. She says, I'm gonna read out the entire question. How to deal with these kind of clients and how to explain it. I'm not sure what kind of clients are you talking about, Sheila. But I think she wants to ask. I mean, they keep bargaining the price, even sometimes giving an attitude to an artist or designer. I hope you are making sense of this question. But she maybe wants to ask, um, you know, uh, uh, the designers and the artists are not really appreciated enough, especially when they are starting out. They are not being priced well. They are taken for granted. So how do we keep up that confidence that we show up our products and our works to the clients, as well as without making any compromise on what we deserve? So how do we? So I hope, Sheila, you meant that only. So I tried making sense of that question. If you can answer this for us, Grace.
Of course, I actually have personal experience with this when I was starting out. I definitely undercharged myself and let people take advantage of me. And I've learned a lot through that. I had people, basically what happened was I draw a lot, and this has happened when I was really young in college, and people were paying me less than minimum wage to design their product because they have this mentality that, oh, art and design is their passion, so we can not pay them, or we can pay them really less for designing your work. But that is completely wrong. Even if it is your passion, you deserve, like anybody, do not work for free. You deserve to get paid for any work you do, especially if you're helping out a client, you're designing something for that client, and you're driving them revenue. And so what I like to do is, not everybody, also, first of all, I like to have a contract with people that I sign, and I also have a fixed hourly rate. And I kind of tell them, what I usually do is people reach out to me for work, and I tell them, I learn more about the scope of their project, and I would kind of assess how long that would take me and price that way based on hourly wages. And additional changes, I'll be like 1.5 times, it'll be like overtime amount. And so I'll make them sign a contract, a legally binding contract, and have them sign it first and make them pay first. Or pay half of it first, at least, to show a deposit, or have a deposit at least, that counts as some hours there you would take. And a great resource I like to do is this channel, because Christo, The Future on YouTube, he has this great contract you can, like a resource you can have, and he has great videos about valuing your work and pricing that. And so I really watch his videos, and that's how I got most of the tips that helped me out. I tried it out personally. And at the end of the day, it's not your job to please everyone. There's so many clients out there. In the beginning, it might be so hard to like turn down someone, but at the end of the day, you really want to work with someone who understands your work as well, value your work, because there's never a shortage of clients out there. So if someone is also showing that they're not appreciative or don't understand that art is actually work and they should pay, or they don't understand that they should pay you, then they're not the right client. And it's okay to deny them as well, because it's better to save yourself time and energy instead of like dealing with a client who underpays you like less than minimum wage at the end of the day, if things don't work out by the contract and the deposit and everything.
All right, and I think it also starts with valuing your own self. I mean, only when you value yourself that you pick your clients. Like you said, that the negotiation doesn't have to happen, or any kind of conversation or interview doesn't have to happen from one side only. If they are there to interview you, you are also there to interview them and get to know about them, to be able to make the right decision at the end of it. So,
Yeah.
right, absolutely. So the next question is by Mr. Rebolos. I honestly do not know how to pronounce the first name. So Mr. Rebolos, if you have a lot of interest and social media accounts, what and how do you tie them all together to be a singular personal brand? What binds them all together? So is there a hack to it?
Yeah, for first of all, it doesn't have to bind to a single personal brand. Like some people, they have a different online personality and their professional work is completely different. So it doesn't have to, disclaimer. But for me, I like to focus on central theme. Like my theme is playfulness. So I always use a lot of bright colors and have that. So that's how I personally do it. But you can always separate. It's okay. It's totally amazing to have like different interests and stuff. And for me personally, I use like a central theme, like playfulness, to bind them together. Like on my food account, I have a lot of like happy faces and stuff like that. And I also use a lot of bright colors, and I also take pictures in like bright environments in my personal account. So playfulness and like using bright colors to express that is how I personally do it. But there's definitely a lot of different ways to do it for all of you as well. But you can, at the end of the day, if you don't want to, that is okay to completely separate different aspects of yourself on different platforms.
Great, thank you so much, Grace. Another question is by Anjali, and I think it's a very important question. I am a self-taught designer. Eventually, I am aiming to have a successful personal brand. Would it be advisable to take a job first to know the ins and outs of the business, or continue freelancing and start building my brand in full force, learning on the way to the success?
Great question. That's definitely something I thought about in the past as well. So for me, after landing my first job, I learned so much about the business side. This is just coming from my experience. There's different ways to do this. In freelancing, you also learn about business. But for me, having an internship and having a full-time role at EA was especially helpful because I have experience working with product managers, engineers, and working towards business goals that impact like a lot of money. And so I learned about that along the way. So for my personal experience, working at a company is really, really helpful for me. Understanding the business side and getting paid and knowing my worth and expressing that. And I actually started with freelancing on the side, like while I'm in school, because I was never a full-time freelancer, but I just did it on the side. So if you have extra time, I would recommend doing both, because you learn so much by working at a full-time role. But you also learn so much from freelancing to work with different clients with different constraints. You're basically your own boss as a freelancer, and then you're working for a boss when you're at a company. So there's no right or wrong answer to this, but it just depends on what you want. Do you want to be part of like a bigger company and learn more, have resources, or do you want to be more of a self-starter and be your own boss? But for me, I like working in a company at least early in my career right now. I just new grad age, and so I'm 23. So it's really helpful for me to work with a company, and because I know I have so much to learn. I've learned so much along the way, so that's why I'm recommending this.
Great, great. Thank you so much, Grace, once again. We have a lot of questions. I just hope that we can take all of them, but we will limit the questions to just three or four maybe.
Mhm.
Viraj Hada asks, I'm a designer from Nepal. I would like to attract more international freelance projects. Um, how could I network more on a personal level?
Yeah, I definitely think platforms like Instagram and Twitter is a great way to meet designers, because LinkedIn, it's a bit more professional, but also LinkedIn. So leveraging, so it depends. And so your clients can come from everywhere. So it's all about experimenting with different social media. So what I'm speaking it from is from my experience networking. And for me, I've actually got the most freelance clients from Instagram, actually, because I can showcase my work a lot. I also got a lot of clients from LinkedIn and Facebook groups and Twitter as well. But Instagram's the main one for me. But Facebook groups is a great way to also find work and showcase your work, and joining other communities and advertising yourself in the appropriate channels is also another way. And network more personal level. I definitely think Instagram and like Twitter, you can like reach people more, because generally professionals check those more than LinkedIn. LinkedIn's right now, it's I getting more and more, but most people are on there to find a job. But for other platforms like Instagram and Twitter, a lot more creatives hang out and spend more time on that note. So interacting on Instagram, commenting people's posts, making connection, and just chatting with them is a great way, just as a friend. And then sometimes once you establish that friend connection, when they need a job, they might reach out to you. So it comes down like first impressions and making sure they're connecting with them to connect with them as a person, and later down the line, they might have a project for you. Not instead of just like reaching out to them like, hi, can I have a job, or can I work for you? That's kind of awkward. So you want to establish that personal connection first by talking at a casual level. So networking is a lifelong process, and definitely not a quick process, but patience will get you clients and money in the long term. So definitely connect personal level first, and then job second.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Okay, we have two questions related to the creative block. How do you handle with creative block? There are times when you don't feel like
Oh, creative block. You froze for a bit. So yeah, so for me, I like to work on many different things at the same time. I would just like switch tasks, or since it's work from home, I go running in the middle of the day sometimes, to like between meetings and stuff. And so I would just like switch different tasks and go back to it later. At least for me, my work allows that, because I'm working on so many different projects at work. And yeah, and also just like sometimes I go to design conferences and join communities, look at what people are talking about and give me ideas and stuff. So just a mix of just switching tasks and joining, like looking at trends and joining communities, seeing what people are talking about, trying out different things is how I get over creative blocks.
All right, all right. Guys, we're taking last question for the day, which is by Ryan. Ryan says, as a graphic design student, mostly passionate about, does a lot of other lot of creative interests? Okay, I think I lost out.
Yeah, I couldn't hear, but
Is it okay?
oh, I can't hear you.
Am I audible now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, so this question is by Ryan. He says, as a graphic design student, he does a lot of creative work, GD and UI. The question is, when you are at an entry level, can you share your personal process of working through new projects?
Yeah, of course. So definitely when you're an entry-level designer, when you're trying to showcase yourself to get a role, it's really important to showcase process. And what you have in your portfolio does not have to be like the final like 100% professional polished piece, because as a designer, your goal is to solve problems, and showcasing that through problem solving process is really key and important. Tell a story of your work and how you work through constraints and different problems and how you ideate solutions and what other solutions you consider, which one you move forward with is super, super important. And that's a long question. Yeah, so definitely, yes, you can showcase your personal project, and don't let the fact that it's not like the final product stop you, or you think it's like not the most best visual style. Your process. So this is kind of speaking from like UX and product design side, because that's what I'm specializing in. It's important to showcase how you solve problems instead of like the final product, and because design is all about solving problems, so don't worry about too much. But if you're interested, I see a lot of creative interest in here. I can't really speak for photography or motion graphics. Let me just read this question again. But yes, you can showcase your personal projects because it's all about storytelling and how you want to show how you think of problems in your portfolio, how you think through work and work with clients or work with different teammates to have solutions. And
All
I have
right, all right.
examples I
Yeah.
showed in my portfolio too. You can use that I showcase my process through. We
All
can.
right.
Mhm.
Great, great. So we are already 10 minutes ahead of the session. We can have a lot more questions, Grace, and the conversation can keep on going on and on, but we are limited by time here. So this actually brings us to the end of the wonderful session with you, Grace. Thank you so much for taking out time and be with here with us, sharing your insights. It's always great to hear from people who have who are not like very very experienced, but they are into 3 4 years into their career and professional life. Things change very rapidly, so it's always good to hear from people like yourself, experts like yourself. Thank you so much for coming here. Any last thoughts would you like to say to the audience?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on. And don't forget to value your work. And it's okay to say no, especially when clients are not valuing your works. I know it's something that a lot of creatives kind of have to experience, unfortunately. But just don't be afraid to say no and really value your work and stand your ground. Even if you feel like you're new, you're still as valuable as someone with like 10 years of experience. So make sure to have the mentality and approach life that way, and just have confidence because you're all awesome. And don't let your experience stop you from doing anything.
All right, all right. Thank you so much, Grace, for being here. And guys, this is not where it ends. We have a lot more events lined up for you in the coming days. The next event is yet another amazing lettering workshop on holiday greeting card. So if you guys are interested and haven't registered yet, I'm putting the link of our event section in the chat. My teammate Robin would be doing that for me in the chat section. Please visit the event section and register for a lot of events that we have lined up for you in the coming days. To stay updated with events like these, you can also follow us on our LinkedIn page. You can also give us suggestions on the topics you would like us to cover and speakers you want us to host. I'm dropping the link of the LinkedIn page in the chat again. To watch this session and other wonderful events, subscribe to our event section on designhill.com/events. For all the designers and artists who are listening to this and wish to be a part of the thriving design community, guys, you gotta make your way to designhill.com. Also, we are soon launching some cool design challenges which are worth $5,000 and more. Any designer or non-designer can be a part of this and create some awesome designs using our DIY design tool called Designhill Studio. Visit the Designhill Studio here in the link which my teammate Robin will be putting in the chat section. Check more about it. You can find the link in the chat. Do not forget to subscribe to our newsletter to get notified about these challenges, and unlock your chance to win big. On that note, I would like to say bye to everyone who joined us here today. Take care, guys, and stay safe.
Thank you, everyone. Have a nice day.